Hello and welcome back to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today's show is part one of my recap of the Lancaster County Hemp Circuit that took place here in the county last week. Before I get too far into this episode, I want to give a big shout out to Sarah Mitchell, Steve Groff, and Alyssa Collins for organizing and executing what I heard one person describe as the best hemp event they've ever been to. So I hope my coverage here today does the event justice. So people came to the event from all over the place. There were 20 different states represented, a couple of different foreign countries, and people from all over the state of Pennsylvania. And I tried to talk to as many of them as I could. So what we're going to hear today is my interviews with people who came from out of state. I'm going to get their impressions on Lancaster County, on the state of hemp in Pennsylvania, on the state of Pennsylvania's place in the hemp industry. And then part two, which will be next week's show, is where I talk to the people who are from Pennsylvania. So we've got a lot going on these next two shows, so I hope you enjoy them. Right now, here's a few words from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you in part by the National Hemp Association. The NHA is a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. that advocates for sensible public policy and regulation. The NHA is dedicated to building a sustainable future and promoting economic development in rural communities. Become a member today and join a thriving community of people with a passion for all things hemp. Learn more at nationalhempassociation.org.
The KP4 Hemp Cutter, introducing a revolution in hemp harvesting, setting a new standard for harvesting quality, speed, and efficiency. The KP4 prepares hemp for ideal retting and easy on-field tedding, raking, and baling. Easy to maintain and designed to withstand the punishments of hemp harvesting. The KP4 Hemp Cutter. Available only at hempcutter.com.
This episode is brought to you in part by I&D Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they believe in the goodness of hemp. I&D Hemp is a family-owned, mission-driven, and environmentally focused industrial hemp food, feed, and fiber company, providing new opportunities for farmers and rural communities. Their mission is to provide innovative agricultural products and services to connect American farmers with the pioneers and businesses that see hemp as a way to bring real and lasting change to our communities and planet. Learn more at indhemp.com. Okay, welcome back. So before we get into the Lancaster County Hemp Circuit coverage, I have a couple of things here, some things to put up on the bulletin board. These are hemp events coming up soon. So next week, September 5th, the Lower Sioux Indian community is having a field day, and they're going to showcase their new processing facility at the reservation there in Morton, Minnesota. I will be there, so if you're there, I'll see you. So that's next week, September 5th. The following week, there's a couple of things going on. On September 11th in Virgil, Illinois, it's the Kif-Cure Hemp Harvest Open House. So that's September 11th in Illinois. On September 12th in Geneva, New York, at Cornell's Agritech campus, there's a fiber and grain field day. And as you'll hear in my interview with Larry Smart on this episode, there's actually a bunch of hemp things happening right in a row up there in Geneva. I think there's actually 3 days of hemp programming, but the fiber and grain field day is on the 12th. Okay, a little bit later in the month, in September 20th through the 22nd, in New Jersey, there is a hempcrete workshop hosted by Right Coast Hemp. That's September 20th through the 22nd. I believe it's down at the shore. So I'll have a link to all of these events on the show page for this episode. All right, one more thing. An event coming up in October. It's the week of October 15th. It's the Montana Hemp Summit. And this is something that I've been involved with for the past few years. You could argue that I inadvertently founded it by driving an RV to Fort Benton, Montana in the summer of 2021. But anyway, this year is the 4th annual Montana Hemp Summit. They're having it in October now to sort of make it easier for some of their farmers to attend it, because when it's in the summer, those guys are out there harvesting wheat. So anyway, the reason I'm bringing it up now is because it's an invitation-only event, right? And they're sending out the invitations now. And I just want to make the announcement to folks out there that, one, if you did get the invitation, please reply. Hope to see you there. If you didn't get an invitation and you think you should have, check your spam folder or send me an email and we'll see what's up. And then third, if you want to go and you think it's an event that you should be at, or you know someone who should go, drop me a line. Because like I said, I'm kind of involved in it. I'm on a steering committee, and so we're trying to put together a really excellent program for you. So we're trying to make sure we get all the right people there. So yeah, that's the Montana Hemp Summit. It's happening October 15th, 16th, and 17th in Great Falls, Montana. So if you want more information about it, send me an email. Send it to podcast@LancasterFarming and put Montana Hemp Summit in the subject line. Okay, so those are my bulletin board items for this week. This is the very last week of August 2024, for those of you keeping track. So now we can turn our attention to the Lancaster County Hemp Circuit that took place here in Lancaster, August 20th and 21st. So the first stop on the Lancaster County Hemp Circuit was at King's Agri-Seeds Test Farm in Christiana, Lancaster County. I got there a little after 9, and I was worried, thinking about this event, that it was going to be sweltering hot. And, it's August, it's Pennsylvania. We have the 3 H's, hazy, hot, and humid. So I was a little nervous that people coming from out of state were just going to be just annoyed that it was hot and muggy. But I don't know. I assume Sarah Mitchell called in a favor, because the weather that day was perfect. It was like the kind of weather where you're glad you had a sweatshirt in the car, and I got there to the farm at King's Agri-Seeds. It was in the low 60s. So perfect day to be out there walking around talking about hemp. And there was a ton of people there. To me, it sort of felt like a family reunion in a way. Because I go to hemp events now in various places, and I see a lot of the same people. I've gotten to know them. I've developed some friendships and relationships. And so it was great to have everybody here in Pennsylvania. So we spent the morning at King's Agri-Seeds, and there were a few different stations. There was an agronomy station, and Sarah Mitchell was talking about different redding techniques, and then seed reps were talking about their varieties. And you can see some of this in a video that I've got at lancasterfarming.com. After King's Agri-Seeds, the group then commuted out to the Landis Valley Farm Museum, about a half an hour away, but through the most beautiful Lancaster County roads you can imagine. Just perfect farms, beautiful rolling hills, perfect way to experience Pennsylvania. At the Landis Valley Farm Museum, there was lunch, and I actually sat at the table with Secretary of Agriculture, Russell Redding, so that was cool. And then he got up and he talked about hemp in Pennsylvania and sort of how far and sort of how much progress Pennsylvania has made since 2016, when they first started talking about the pilot program.
But I think it's easy to stand here sort of 7 years on and just sort of assume that everything we have today has always been here, right? And the reality is, in this conversation, this is about restoring an industry that was here in a really significant way in Pennsylvania and certainly in other states, in rebuilding that industry. And I think now that we know how much work it takes to rebuild the industry.
So I talked to some folks from out of state, and I get the sense that they're jealous of the support that we have here from our Department of Agriculture for the hemp industry here in Pennsylvania. Other states don't have that kind of support. I mean, sure, some do. But yeah, I think here in Pennsylvania, we are very grateful for Secretary Redding and his team over there at the Department of Agriculture. After the Secretary spoke, there was a handful of Pennsylvania hemp entrepreneurs talking about their business and how they're using hemp and their products and whatnot. One of those speakers was Herb Grove. He's been on the show before. He grows grain out there in Center County. So I made a recording of the presentations, but I think it's going to be more interesting if I actually interview some of those entrepreneurs over the next couple of weeks or months. So stay tuned for that. So after the Landis Valley Farm Museum, there was a little dinner break, and then in the evening over at the Penn State Research Farm in Mannheim, there was a twilight walk around. They're doing the variety trials there, and there's a lot of agronomy research and pest and disease research going on there. And so it was another chance for industry folks to talk to each other and learn and share. So that was the first day of the hemp circuit. The second day of the hemp circuit took place entirely at Steve Groff's farm down there in Holtwood, Lancaster County. He had a great big tent set up in a hemp field that had recently been cut. So as you're walking around, you're actually standing in a hemp field on hemp stalks. It was an action-packed day full of all kinds of stuff. Here's Steve Groff prepping everybody for what they're about to experience.
So this day, if you look at the schedule, is jam-packed. It's going to be pretty much non-stop from now until 3:30. And I just want to say something very clearly. You do not have to be a part of the main part of the program. I will not be offended if I see you talking to somebody in the distance.
Yeah, that's a great thing about Steve, is that he's a realist. He knows that people are just gonna chat with each other. That's what I did a lot of the time. I saw some of the variety trial discussions. I saw some of the equipment demos, and I saw some of the speakers. But otherwise, I just walked around talking to people. I interviewed people inside the Hemp House on Wheels, which was there. That's the thing that Cameron McIntosh, Drew Oberholzer, and Anna Konopitskaya built back in 2019. So yeah, that was my little recording booth for the day. At one point, I got up and I gave a little presentation myself. Steve asked me to say a few words. He sort of billed it as meet the man behind the mic. And I was going to give my sort of perspective on where we are, where we're going, that sort of thing. I will have more on that in part 2. And like I said in the intro, part 1 is my interviews with people who came to the event from out of state. We're going to talk to Morris Beagle, Eric Singular, Larry Smart, Wendy Mosher, Larry Serbin, Laura Sullivan, Bert James, Rusty Peterson, David Suchoff, and Keith Harvey. Here we go. Morris Beagle, I keep running into you in the craziest places. How are you?
I'm doing good, Eric.
Yeah, so last time we talked on the podcast, we were in Prague together, but now you tell me where we are.
We are in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Is that correct? At Steve Groff's farm.
We're at Steve Groff's farm.
We are at Cedar Meadow Farm.
Cedar Meadow Farm, yeah.
That's correct.
Kind of the epicenter of hemp in Pennsylvania, I think.
I would say so, and I would potentially say maybe even the epicenter of hemp in the United States as far as how things should be done, because Steve is a regenerative farmer and super smart and doing all these trials and really gathering the data to see what varieties will work and what kind of conditions, when to plant. Very impressive.
Yeah, so you were at the thing yesterday at the Landis Valley Museum, and you heard our Secretary of Agriculture talk about hemp in Pennsylvania. What's your take on Pennsylvania, like in the hemp space?
Honestly, I think that Pennsylvania is positioned to do very well, particularly in fiber and grain. Obviously, there's a history here from hundreds of years ago, and walking through the museum, we could see old wagons that had hemp canvas on them from like the 1840s and 50s.
Conestoga wagons, yeah.
Yeah, so that's super cool, and it sounds like the secretary and the undersecretary who I talked to are very supportive of this crop becoming integral in the rotation here in Pennsylvania. And compared to, let's say, where Colorado was like a leader in the beginning, so you look at Colorado and Oregon, two of the big leaders, and Kentucky, three of the big leaders, back in from 2014 to 2019, and where those states are now, we take a look at Pennsylvania that didn't really go through the bust that the other states did, and you look at, let's say, South Dakota and Montana that are also doing quite well, I think that Pennsylvania is positioned to be, one of the top states in the country moving forward in the next 10 years. You've got the Pennsylvania Hemp Engine, is that what it's called?
Hemp Engine, yeah.
You've got grant money coming in. You've got interest from the state. You got the governor who's shown up here, Shapiro.
Yeah.
We have Governor Polis who's been supportive of the hemp industry, but the marijuana industry and the hemp industry and the collapse of those industries has affected Colorado, where you don't see that here in Pennsylvania. You see more optimism, you see more opportunity moving down the road. What Pennsylvania needs is processing. You guys need to get a couple decortication facilities, a couple dehulling and oil pressing facilities, and I think that you've got farmers out here. The farmland out here is amazing. You get good processors, you contract with farmers, the farmers get paid, and you have a plan for the byproducts going into the marketplace. And I think that, again, Pennsylvania is in a great position. Super impressed with this event. King's Agri-Seeds, the Department of Agriculture, Steve Groff, everybody that's come together is a very diverse group. And you've got international people here. You got people from all over the country.
It's pretty cool. Yeah,
it is.
It's neat to see this.
I'm looking forward to talking on stage with Steve a little bit later today, talking about the coolest things in hemp around the world. And I can tell you this is definitely one of the coolest things with hemp around the world today, this week, for sure. There's no question about it.
Right. We're standing in a hemp field at a hemp field day, right?
Right. And, Steve's got, I don't know how many, 40 or 50 or 60 acres in this trial area, and a couple hundred acres that he's planted. It's great.
Yeah. And the other thing about PA is our proximity to markets. Like we're within 6 hours drive of millions and millions of people who want to buy products, right?
Yep, absolutely. And one thing that's very special for me, Steve had originally titled this Hemp Coming Home? Is
Something like that?
Yeah, and so for those that don't know, and I'm going to mention this today when I talk as well, my ancestors back in the 1700s and 1800s settled in Pennsylvania, in Bedford County, Lancaster County, was it Nottingham?
That sounds right.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of counties, but really Bedford and Lancaster, Bedford's number
welcome
one.
home.
Exactly,
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to be here standing on the ground where my ancestors were back in the late 1700s and early 1800s. It's
Cool.
Great.
Right on, Mars. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Eric Singular, hello. Welcome to Lancaster County. How are you?
I'm doing well, and it's a pleasure to be back here for the 4th year in a row.
Has it been 4 years now?
It's been 4 years, yeah.
And they've been growing your seeds at King's Agri-Seeds.
They have.
All right.
Yeah, huge shout out to Sarah Mitchell and King's Agri-Seeds, because even though the processing infrastructure is yet to really be developed in this region, the agronomic foundation that they have laid with those variety trials and fertilizer programs and general agronomic need-to-knows for producing grain and fiber will be critical for the growth of the industry here in Pennsylvania and the Northeast.
All right. So what do you think of what Pennsylvania's doing here? Where do you see Pennsylvania fitting into the overall hemp industry?
Well, one way that a seed company gauges how they're doing is, do they have repeat customers? And what I see coming back here 4 years in a row, you guys have repeat customers and you've got new customers every year. This is a growing space. There's growing excitement in Pennsylvania. It seems like now there's grant monies that are coming together to support the future infrastructure for processing and for value-added materials from industrial hemp here in Pennsylvania. So I think you've got a blueprint for success here in the state.
I like that. That's a good answer. I was talking to a grower earlier who said he was growing, I think, international hemp seeds, which that's your company, right? The first certified hemp seed in Pennsylvania. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that is something we're really excited about. It's something that we've been talking to King's Agri-Seeds for a number of years about. We took the first stab this year with the Ursa Grande variety that we have licensed through Cornell, and we're doing a small-scale seed multiplication effort on that in the state of Pennsylvania, and I'd like to also give a shout out to Dr. Larry Smart from Cornell for being very present for that entire process and really helping that grower work through some of the initial challenges that come with seed production for industrial hemp.
All right. So what's next for you now from here in PA?
Yeah, I think that we want to really see what happens here in the next 4 to 6 months, what kind of opportunities unfold with fiber processing and grain processing. We just saw that AFCO seed approval for lane hens. That creates some new markets for hemp grain, and it seems like there's a tremendous interest in getting some processing in the state for herd and bast. So I'm hopeful that next season, 2025, we might see some contracts being put out by processors here in the Northeast that would support the growing acreage in Pennsylvania.
All right. I look forward to that. Thanks, Eric. All right. Dr. Larry Smart from Cornell University. Welcome to Lancaster County. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Eric. It's great to be here in Lancaster. It's my first time down here.
All right. And give me some of your impressions of the county itself.
Oh, it's beautiful farmland. I'll just say the roads here are twisty and turny. We're used to straighter roads in the Finger Lakes, but the landscape is just spectacular.
All right. So I know you have some of the genetics that you've been working on. They're being trialed here at King's Agri-Seeds yesterday. You saw those, and then here today at Steve's farm. So Steve's going to start soon, but what do you think of your varieties?
Yeah, so we're very pleased with these two varieties from our breeding program that have been produced with initial funding from New York State and more recent funding from the Foundation for Food and Agricultural Research with matching funds from International Hemp. We have trademarked the name Ursa to cover all of our varieties that we produce in the Cornell breeding program. Ursa is the Latin name for bear, which is our mascot. So these first two varieties, one is a dedicated fiber variety we call Alta, and the other is a grain or dual purpose variety called Grande. We have been trialing those with our academic colleagues around the country this year, and anecdotally this season they're doing very well. But it was nice to see them here at King's Agri-Seed and again at the Penn State Research Station. They are late flowering varieties, so they're very tall now, and it looks like our initial yield estimates from our trials are going to hold up across multiple regions. So,
and talk to me about those yields. What are you looking at grain-wise per acre?
Yeah, so optimistically, we would hope for more than 2,000 pounds to the acre from Grande and 4 tons to the acre of straw.
Which is a game changer, right?
Yeah, so 4 tons to the acre is a very good yield for a dedicated fiber variety, but if a farmer can also capture 2,000 pounds of grain, and it's a large seeded variety, so that grain will be large and easy to dehull, then again, I think it will be very attractive if you have the ability to do that dual purpose harvest from a very tall variety. Alta, our estimates are that it will yield as high as 8 tons to the acre. So again, if our typical yields are 4 tons or 5 tons, if we can get up to 7 or 8 tons per acre, that brings profit to the farmer.
It raises some questions about harvesting.
For the fiber, we have not had trouble harvesting it.
Okay. For the grain.
For grain, again, when it's up there 9-10 feet tall, that grain, you have to have some kind of specialized equipment that puts your combine header up that tall. But I have regularly faced these issues in my breeding programs of how does the engineer handle the high yield that we're producing in our breeding program, and I just throw it back at the engineer.
Figure it out.
I say, figure it out. This is your problem now.
Nice. One last question. Thoughts on the recent AFCO vote for hemp seed meal as a ingredient for laying hens?
It is a game changer. It is, breaking down the bricks in the dike that we need to get this flood of interest. It's a huge market. I think the product will be very attractive to animal producers. I'm not an animal nutritionist, but everything I read is that it's going to be a great ingredient for a number of animals. At Cornell, we are about to initiate 3 new animal feeding studies for dairy cows, horses, and broiler chickens. Right. So we continue to provide the data that we need to add more and more registrations and be able to feed hemp seed meal to additional animals. I will say we want, in my breeding program, it is a target to reduce the risk to growers of meeting those standards of 2 parts per million THC and 20 parts per million CBD. Our solution to that is to breed high CBG lines that are effectively 0 THC grain varieties, so that testing for THC it will become a non-issue. So again, give me that challenge as a plant breeder, and I will do my best to address it.
Nice. And then you've got a field day coming up, second week of September?
Yes, we have actually multiple field days in a row. On September 11th, our colleagues at the USDA Hemp Germplasm Repository are having an open house to look at their trials. Incredible diversity they've been able to collect already in just a few years, so that's September 11th. Our Cornell Grain and Fiber Hemp Field Day is September 12th on Thursday. We welcome everyone to that. We will have harvesting, baling demonstrations, as well as a demonstration of our Fiber Cut 660 decorticator. And on Friday, we have my colleague Daniela Vergara is hosting our high cannabinoid field day. So 3 field days in a row if you want to spend a beautiful week in the Finger Lakes.
All right, Larry Smart, thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric.
Wendy Mosher from New West Genetics in Fort Collins, Colorado. Here you are in Pennsylvania. How you doing?
I'm great, thank you. I'm actually, this is, I think, day 14 of my trip. I've been driving across the country from Colorado, visiting customers, fields in Kansas, Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, Ohio, and now here.
Right.
Really grateful to be here.
Cool. And what do you hope to get out of this event today?
One, I'm just happy to watch the fiber side. We don't have, genetics that are necessarily pinpointed towards the fiber side. We're more on the grain side. Another reason I wanted to be here is yesterday at King's. They had some of our varieties for grain trialing. We were working on getting something that's appropriate for Pennsylvania. I think we got there. And Steve has an experimental plot of it here today.
Okay. Can you give me some thoughts on Pennsylvania's role in the hemp space moving forward?
Well, I hope we get some chicken feed going again. That would be fantastic. I know, Pennsylvania has some beautiful farmland. Would love to break up the soy rotation, soy corn. Would love to get in there, and I think there's room to do that, but you'll need processing. So grain processing, let's get moving on it.
All right, Wendy Mosher, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Hello, Larry Serbin. Welcome to our podcast. It's an honor to meet you and to talk to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, obviously, for me anyway, you have a reputation. You have some tall hemp. You're like the Guinness World Book of Records.
Technically, we grew the world's tallest hemp plant back in 2021 in California.
But you're involved in hemp traders and all sorts of things.
Yes, I have my company, Hemp Traders, which I started in 1994, and because there wasn't a lot available back then, I began to import hemp textiles, and so we sell a variety of hemp fabrics to the apparel industry, the home furnishing industry, and the accessories industry.
All right, and so here you are in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and I know you're here for the event, but can you tell me more about some of your interest in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, well, we're working on new decortication techniques, and it's being very successful. This is a good area. There's a lot of machine shops out here. There's the Amish out here who like to work with machines, and we're working on ways to possibly do what I refer to as green decortication, where the hemp could be decorticated in the field, which would result in farmers earning a lot more money for the crop, and the cost of the hemp raw materials like the herd and bast fiber to be about half of what they are now.
Well, so walk me through that. So you would save money because you wouldn't be then transporting it to a facility.
Right, yeah, I'll talk about the economics. Currently, The way it's generally done now is the hemp is chopped in the field with a sickle bar, then it has to lay in the field to ret, which means rotting, and that's to facilitate the breakdown of the hemp to make it easier for the decortication. The hemp then has to be baled up and brought to a decortication facility. And that's difficult because I think in America there's maybe 12 decortication facilities right now, and if you're not within about 50 miles of it, the transportation costs of moving hemp straw, which is whole hemp stalk, makes it kind of prohibitive. Also, the amount of money to build a hemp decortication facility will run in the millions if you want it to do any kind of capacity. So you're ending up with farmers earning about $200 a ton for the hemp straw. And if you grow hemp properly for fiber, you can get about 4 tons per acre. So that's just $800 gross that the farmer would be earning. Then, after the decortication, we're ending up with the bast fiber at about maybe $1.60 a pound, and herd anywhere from, on the very low end, 45 cents a pound, more likely 55, 60, and 75, depending on the volume, the quality, and how it's packaged. Now, if we're able to take that and do what's referred to as green decortication, then what we're doing is we're having the farmer be able to harvest and decorticate right in the field. So that eliminates the whole retting process. It eliminates having to build a decortication plant, so you're not spending that millions of dollars, and it eliminates a whole middleman, which is the decortication facility.
Does it sort of limit the manufacturer in like how they want their material processed?
Yeah, no, it actually ends up with a better quality material because currently current decortication facilities tend to end up with a shorter fiber, usually kind of dirty, dust or a lot of herding, and it's hard to get it 100% pure. If you're doing a green decortication, we're removing probably 99 to 100% of the herd, which is separated. You end up with a fiber that's as long as the entire hemp plant. So we're ending up with something a lot more, and then it's the farmer who gets the money for the separated bast fiber and separated herd. If you're able to pay the farmer 20 cents a pound for herd, which is less than half, and 70 cents a pound for the bast fiber, which is again about half of what it currently is, farmer goes from $800 an acre to $2,400 per acre. That makes it a lot more tempting for any farmer to grow it, and you're winding up with raw materials that are less than half of what they are now. So that's helpful for people doing hemp building, hemp textiles, or any of the other major applications of hemp fibers.
All right, that's really interesting. And you're working with Steve Groff and iHemp Catalyst on that?
Yes, we're working on that to get something like that developed. Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, Larry Serbin. It's an honor to talk to you.
All right. You're very welcome. Thank you, Eric.
Hello, Laura Sullivan, fiber artist and extension educator from Vermont. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Eric?
Doing all right. So is this your first time to Lancaster County?
Yes, it is.
Can you sort of describe the experience for me?
It's very beautiful. The weather's perfect, unexpected. It's really great to be around so many hemp people and see everybody and meet new people. Everybody is just super friendly and always really enthusiastic about hemp. There's always so much learning at these events, which is great.
Can you talk about something that you learned, some sort of nugget of wisdom that you'll take home to Vermont?
Yeah, it was my first time hearing about the nurse crops Sarah Mitchell was talking about. Also got to chat with Maciek about retting a little bit, and I've been a little disappointed in our field retting this season just because it's been pretty extreme weather, so there's been really hot days and really large rain events, and retting's a process that hinges completely on temperature and moisture, so it's it's likely that would be affected by extreme weather. So just kind of chatting about what's happening around the world at this time of year, and bouncing ideas off each other about why certain things are looking certain ways.
Okay, so speaking of extreme weather, you had some flooding up in your neck of the woods. How has that affected agriculture up there?
Yeah, we had a catastrophic flood on the anniversary of our catastrophic flood, and then we had another flood, so 2 floods this July. And it hasn't affected the farm that I'm at too personally. Like, the hemp really responds well to a lot of water, and we don't have any standing water, which would be a problem. But for just farms in general, it's definitely disheartening. There's certain areas in floodplains and the like that are just really prone to flooding, and it makes for a pretty depressing growing season when you get flooded out, especially if you're growing vegetables, because those veggies can become contaminated. With the hemp, we don't necessarily have that problem, but yeah, it's something that has caused a lot of chaos, and it's also created a lot of resilience amongst the community because it's our new normal.
Right, so there is some sort of silver lining there.
We're just learning how to adapt because that's how we'll get through this, and it takes a village.
All right, so what's next for you?
Next for me is, we're in the middle of a lot of harvesting stuff right now on the farm because we have a harvest date, like a harvest timing trial, so that gets harvested every 10 days, so I'm still doing that. We also have a redding trial where we're taking samples at 1-week intervals and doing wet chemistry on those to look at what's happening inside of the stalk as it's laying on the ground and transforming. Early September will be hemp grain harvest, so the hemp just continues. We didn't do any flower trials this year, which I'm pretty happy and relieved about, so we won't have that late fall harvest push. But yeah, grain harvest is still to come, so the hemp has not let up.
All right, Laura Sullivan, great to see you, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. It's always good to see you.
Bert James, I'm going to hold the mic, Bert. You don't get to hold the mic.
All right, I trust you.
All right, Bert James, hello. Welcome to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania.
Good morning, Eric Herlock.
You been here before?
I've been to this field before, but not to this event.
Oh, okay, right. So you've been to Lancaster County before?
Yes, I have.
All right. So what are you getting out of this event?
I said it yesterday at the other King Niagara Seeds plot, and I think Pennsylvania is a hemp playground in the way that they have access to so many different varieties. They're at a good latitude, they've got good soil, so there's a lot of potential here, but we're going to obviously need to get some processing online to serve this opportunity. But yeah, as far as the farming goes, a lot of potential here.
How do you see Pennsylvania sort of fitting into the larger hemp space in America?
I think every state is going to have their niche or role to play. I think most states are going to probably pursue the easiest markets short term, but until we get a couple of years of agriculture and production under our belts, I think then we'll truly see what their potential is. In some cases, that's going to be in more of a niche market. I was made aware that there's a textile operation that's actively pursuing hemp.
And flax.
And so those are two things that go well together. And so I was very pleased to hear that. You know, you've got to start somewhere. And the fact that somebody's pursuing textile grade fiber, which is the most high in value of the crop, that's a really good start.
All right, tell me a little bit about the work that you do and who you do it for.
Well, I currently have a co-owner in a company called KonopiUS. You've interviewed my partners prior to this. I've actually spoken before. But we source genetics from all around the world, and we try to match the genetics with the latitudes that they serve in the United States. So that means that we'll grab European varieties and slide them over to the northern tier of the country. Then we'll grab Australian varieties and slide them over to the southern part of the country. And so we're trying to serve the whole continent right now, or at least North America. Canada's got their great program going. Mexico, not on my radar. I'm sure that they'll get involved at some point, but the United States is our largest opportunity, and we're focused right here.
All right. And you also provide like agronomy consultation too, right?
We do. We try to give everybody a nice manual at the beginning of the year and give them a few months to study that. So we try to give everybody a certain base of information. We are also available to come out to the field, put our hands in the soil. You know, boots on the ground is always the best, and have a little bit more of a custom-made agronomy program for different opportunities. Because as we know, this crop is a bit unique, because a lot of the quality and the processing needs actually begin in the field. Something as simple as seed population, nutrition, as far as how much nitrogen we apply, when we harvest. All of these things are very important for the end use. So we try to pass that information on a customer-by-customer basis.
All right. Thank you, Bert James. Appreciate what you're doing.
We appreciate you, Eric. Keep it up.
Rusty Peterson from IND Hemp. It is an honor to see you here in Pennsylvania today.
Well, it's great to be here, Eric. Great to see you too, my friend.
Is this your first time to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania?
This is my first time to Lancaster, and it won't be the last because it is pretty awesome. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, what is it that, what do you like about it?
So, initially coming in, it was the amazing kind of collaboration between people, and of course the state support, as well as everything that's kind of going on in and around Lancaster, driving through and seeing how the communities were so diverse within how the actual agricultural systems, how lush and green and just everything works so well together, seeing the pastures, seeing kind of the cow grazing, and just it's radically different from a lot of spaces that seem to be trampled and kind of overgrazed and things like that. And it's like there's something special going on here.
Yeah, I agree with you. So there's some interesting sort of synergy happening between IND Hemp and some folks here in Pennsylvania. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, so basically Ken Elliott, obviously our fearless leader, has been down here, and he's been talking quite a bit with Fred and Russell Redding as well.
They're from the Department of Agriculture.
Yeah. Yes. And so ultimately just giving and having conversations around support, hoping to mitigate some of the challenges that we've experienced in Montana, and really just being kind of that kind of knowledge-based resource to kind of lean on as, we've been on the West Coast there and kind of doing everything in Montana, and really just want to get out and shout the goodness of hemp as much as we can, right? But then also bring other players into the space and really kind of link arms and just kind of give that collaborative push, as much as we can.
Right. So in Pennsylvania currently we have no processing capacity, and hopefully that's going to change soon. And I think once it does, we'll see Pennsylvania sort of stepping out maybe in a larger way on the national hemp stage. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I love it. I think that Pennsylvania can not only bring great leadership, they've got a lot of great things going on here. I mean, this hemp circuit right now is, if it's any indication of things to come, I think that it's great. Also, there's a really good podcaster here that does a lot of great stuff too to kind of get the word out as well. But I've met a ton of great people here, and I think that they not only get it, but they also still understand the nuances that it's going to take, right? To the challenges, the pitfalls. And so I have a lot of hope, and just really kind of want to see it grow and thrive. Not to mention with the existing systems that are here, right? It's like, wow, look how well the state has really come together to kind of build these existing systems. I think that there's a great foundation to kind of get hemp into the crop rotation and just kind of make it that much more robust, not only for the economy, for the farmers, but just overall.
Yeah. Is there any sort of nugget of wisdom that you're going to take home from here to the folks in Montana?
Yeah, let's support PA as much as we can, right? I've just been super stoked with all the conversations that I've been having, and I think the nugget of wisdom here is there's other people that are seeing obviously the goodness of hemp, and they're seeing what we're doing. I've had a lot of great conversations. People have come up and I&D Hemp just absolutely love what you guys are doing. The branding around Hemptana and All Walks, the functionality in general of hemp, but then also the sustainability and the carbon story, right? All of these things are starting to coalesce and really come together. And so the golden nugget is going to be, it's catching fire, right? Let's continue to stoke it, and let's continue to support as much as we can.
Amen to that, Rusty. Thank you so much. It's great to see you here.
Absolutely, Eric. It's always a pleasure, my man.
All right, Dr. David Suchoff, welcome to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's beautiful. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, well, so I've interviewed you before on the show, I think, I don't know, last fall or earlier this winter, whenever it was, but you're from North Carolina. And so tell me a little bit about what you're doing down there.
Sure, yeah. So I am a faculty member at NC State in the Department of Crop and Soil Sciences, and my program works with new and emerging crops. And we've been working with hemp now for about 5 years and really focusing a lot of our agronomic trials on fiber hemp specifically.
Okay, and so you're here in Pennsylvania, like what, obviously you're here for the Hemp Field Day, but like how are you involved in what's going on here in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, so both the folks at Penn State and Steve asked me to come speak a little bit about just kind of an overview of the work that we're doing, how it relates both in terms of the research that's being done at Penn State, but also kind of what we're seeing in the fields here with Steve.
All right, how do you see Pennsylvania sort of fitting into the puzzle that is the national hemp industry?
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of movement going on here in terms of fiber production, but also with grain as well. You know, with the new ruling from AFCO, I think we're going to see a tremendous growth in grain production for all of the laying hens around here. But also, it looks like there's going to be a pretty large BAST processor in Pennsylvania as well. And so I think we're going to see, you know, a really diverse hemp system in the state.
Do you have inside information? Do you know about this BAST processor?
I do not have much inside information, no. I'm sorry.
All right, I figured I'd ask. All right, thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, hello, Keith. Could you introduce yourself for us?
Hello there, Keith Harvey, UGP Global Energy with UGP Global Energy PA Inc. at Steve Groth's Lancaster Farm event.
I can tell by your accent that you are local.
Fairly local, about 5,000 miles, so from central Scotland over in the UK.
And how are you experiencing this event here in Pennsylvania?
Well, it's been a fantastic 2 days, although my legs and my knees are not feeling that way. But the volume and quality of speakers, demonstrations, it's just been absolutely outstanding. And the support from US Department of Ag, the Pennsylvania State Department, and everyone connected has been pretty phenomenal.
Does your interest in hemp lie back home in Scotland or here in the US?
So my interest in hemp lies in both places, both in Scotland and in the US. Pennsylvania in particular. Big fan of American history, and anyone who's involved in the hemp industry knows that PA is a breadbasket of industrial hemp dating back to pre-Prohibition, World War I times, and they've got a history and a wealth and breadth of knowledge.
Can you sort of speculate what Pennsylvania's role will be in the national hemp industry moving forward?
Yeah, well, I think you can tell from the level of support from the governor all the way down to the ag department and the farmers that PA is going to be the dominant factor within the hemp sector in the US. It's got the most things going on, and it's an exciting time to be involved in the hemp sector, but especially in Pennsylvania, USA.
All right, thank you so much, Keith.
Very welcome. Pleasure speaking with you again.
Likewise. All right, there you go. Some out-of-state perspectives from Colorado, New Mexico, New York, California, Vermont, North Carolina, Michigan / Montana, and Scotland. I think that's a pretty good mix for one show. And then my coverage continues on part 2, which will be out next week. I'm going to talk to Steve Groth, Ron Kander, Sean House, Sarah Mitchell, Alyssa Collins, and a whole lot of other people. And you're not going to want to miss when I ask Fred Strathmeyer if we're going to see a processor here in Pennsylvania by this time next year.
I'm going to stick my neck out there and tell you yes.
All right, there you go. That's the show for today. Thank you for listening. My name is Eric Herlock. I'm the senior digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. Go there to the show page for this episode and click on the links for our sponsors and click on the links for those calendar items, all those great workshops and field days coming up. And just a reminder that next week I'm going to be out there in Minnesota with Danny DeJarly and his building crew for the Lower Sioux Hemp Field Day. Looking forward to that. All right, so I got to get out of here. I have to start working on next week's episode. So until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2024 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, which is part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show is written, recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock. And the music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow.